Hello, everyone, and welcome to Todd versus
BBD.
All right, guys, we're here today with some Khans of Tarkir Standard, and I think I might have broke it. I'm not sure yet. I have this really sweet Dark Rabble deck that I wrote about in my article last week, maybe 2 weeks ago. Anyway, check it out. It is sure to delight and maybe ruin Standard again because it's another Thoughtseize deck.
Yeah, if you ever thought, I want to go Sign in Blood and then Rabble Master.
Yeah.
This is where you're at.
This is the deck for you.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's go and take a look at the deck and I'll explain exactly what we're trying to do. So if you read my article, you know that this deck is very similar to the Desecration Demon Pack Rat style decks that we're used to. Instead of Pack Rat and Mutavault and things like that, though, instead we just have Goblin Rabble Master, aka everyone's favorite new goblin that just kills people if they don't do anything about it. Now, normally, these Goblin Rabble Master decks don't have ways to disrupt the opponent. They just have creatures, and they have burn spells. But this deck has Thoughtseize and Brain Maggot early on to disrupt your opponent's hand, taking away their removal spells or their blockers, and then that leaves Goblin Rabble Master left alone to just kill them. The fact that you also get to play these really powerful spot removal spells in Lightning Strike and Hero's Downfall, as well as Bile means that you're just going to clear the way every single turn to, get your opponent's creatures out of the way while you kill them. If that plan fails, though, we do have an endgame with Ashclawed Phoenix and Sarkhan the Dragon Speaker. These are two of the most powerful red threats I've seen in a long time. They can come down to play either offense or defense. Ashclawed Phoenix is a great blocker because he just flips down to a morph and can block again. Or, you can save it after you morph it down by, unmorphing it 2 turns later and dealing your opponent some extra damage. So this guy, I think, is pretty similar to Voice of Resurgence in that he's great at offense and defense. Obviously, he doesn't have that catch of your opponent can't play spells on your turn, basically, or whatever. But he's been one of my favorite cards out of the set.
Yeah, I really like him a lot, and he's actually just an awesome size, too, because he gets in the way of Savage Knuckleblade and Stormbreath Dragon.
Yeah, so. I mean, if your opponent wants to spend their entire turn pumping their Savage Knuckleblade, I'm okay with that, Yeah,
I'll just unmorph him a couple turns later.
Exactly, they time walk themselves to deal you 0 damage and flip your guy or whatever. And then you get to untap, their guy's tapped, all their mana's tapped, you cast Goblin Rabble Master or Sarkhan and just kill it immediately with Sarkhan's ability or just, go crazy. So, some of the cool starts with this deck, Thoughtseize and the Sign in Blood on the play is one of the most powerful things you could do in Standard, I think.
Yeah.
With everyone having so many lands come into play tap, trying to play these 3-color decks, just being on the play, having 2 mana in play, taking their best card, and then being on par with cards with them is just gigantic. This is 2 mana divination. Your life total matters a little bit less in this deck than it would in previous style black decks because you're much more aggressive with Goblin Rabble Master, Ashclawed Phoenix, and Sarkhan. Your threats hit hard. Yeah, which I really like. As far as the mana base is concerned, we have 12 dual lands, 8 come into play tapped, which I don't love, but I really think Bloodfell Caves deserves consideration for this deck simply because it can help you offset early Thoughtseizes and Sign in Bloods so that you do have that life total late in the game to actually close it out. It also offsets Bloodstained Mire, which is great. I might want one more mountain in the deck over one of the swamps since we effectively have 10 swamps with, we have 10 swamps with 8 swamps and 2 Urborgs. But we do have a significant number of double red cards with 4 Phoenix and 3 Sarkhan. But I didn't ever want to have a mountain on turn 2 unless I had an Urborg so that I could cast Sign in Blood or Bile Blight. So I'm not sure. It needs a little work, I think. But.
Yeah, I think maybe even you could try Stoke the Flames or something like that over Bile Blight to really reduce your black dependency.
Yeah,
I mean, or Read the Bones maybe is another option too. It would slow the deck down definitely. But maybe if you're having issues casting Ashclawed Phoenixes, then maybe that's what has to happen.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a potential build for this to focus way less on the black, right? We don't actually have to play Bile Blight or Sign in Blood. We could just play, like you said, Stoke the Flames and maybe a Read the Bones or another burn spell or something. So there's definitely consideration for that. There's no way I would ever cut a Downfall in this format.
Agreed.
I think this is going to be the best card or the best removal spell in the format, and it's not particularly close. But anyway, guys, that is the main deck for Dark Rabble. Let's get to the sideboard, and then we'll get to Brian's deck. All right, so here in the sideboard, the one card I really want to hammer on was Bloodsoaked Champion. And since this deck can get very aggressive with Goblin Rabblemaster, Ashcloud Phoenix, and Sarkhan, I feel like having access to a resilient 1-drop against like any sort of slower control deck that doesn't have a lot of creatures is huge. You know, a very few of the removal spells in the format actually exile this guy, aside from like the Magma Sprays, the Banishing Lights, but like, you know, Abzan Charm, Suspension Field, those cards don't actually hit this guy, so that's pretty good. But the fact that you can rebuy him after just attacking with a goblin is pretty big, I think.
Yeah.
And just continually, like, you know, putting pressure on your opponent, and even if they actually kill it. This guy, I think, is just going to be one of the best aggressive cards in the format. And if I'm morphing into that style of deck after game 1, I really like this.
Yeah, like you need to have something to bring in when you take out your Bio Blights and stuff against control decks.
Yeah, we also have 2 copies of Chandra Pyromaster, which I think they should probably be in the main deck, but right now I think the main deck is pretty tight-knit, and I didn't want to have my curve be too high. Like, I already have 4 4-drops and 3 5-drops, and so I decided to put Chandra into the sideboard and just board it in whenever I think the games are going to slow down a little bit.
Yep.
But, you know, if I want to play the aggressive role against the control decks, having access to this card advantage engine actually sounds pretty good, now that we're not having to try to fight against Sphinx's Revelation. You know, they're not actually going to be able to keep on par with card advantage if you're drawing a card every single turn.
Yeah, and there's also, I think, going to be a lot of decks where Chandra might be really strong as a like kill your 1 toughness creature every turn type thing.
Yeah, I agree with that too. We have 2 copies of Liliana Vest that also come in against control. But the one card that I'm actually on the fence about is Anger of the Gods. So this card exiles your Ashcloud Phoenix. Doesn't really work well with Goblin Rabblemaster or Brain Maggot. But I think Sidisi is just a powerful enough card that I have to respect it in some way. And Anger of the God not only exiles it, so it keeps all the creatures out of the graveyard, but it takes care of her and all of her zombies, which is huge for a deck when you're trying to play the control role.
Yeah, like my one fear with I think Anger is very strong. My one fear is whether you can cast it easily off the mana base as well.
Yeah, I mean, there is the potential for that. I'm not sure how often I'm going to be fetching Swamp versus Mountain with Bloodstained Mire, but yeah, this could be Drown in Sorrow. It also could just be more cheap spot removal, more Magma Sprays, more Freak of Skiers. Maybe having 4 Lightning Strikes in the main deck is enough to deal with Sidisi, but I don't want to make that bet. At least not yet. Once I play some more of the deck, I'll have that figured out, and then we'll go from there. 1 copy of Silence the Believers for these mid-range decks that go super long. This is like your new Doomblade, because we don't have Doomblade anymore. You know, we could be playing Murderous Cut, but I think with Sight and Blood and all the removal spells and Ashcloud Phoenix and Sarkhan, these games are going to go pretty long. And so having a 2-for-1 late in the game to take care of Siege Rhinos and things like that is going to be pretty big. And then last but not least, we have 2 Freak of Skiers and a Magma Spray to come in against the hyper-aggressive red decks so that we have some more cheap removal. Freak of Skier gets the nod over Magma Spray simply because I think it might actually be easier to cast in this deck. I'm not positive, but it also gains life, which is big. And enough of my lands come into play tapped on turn 1 that a 2-mana spell on turn 2 versus a 1-mana spell on turn 2 is not really that much different.
Yeah, one thing I think might be sweet with 2 Lilianas is 1 Empty the Pits.
Oh yeah. Well, I consider that too.
Just something to tutor up.
Yeah, I do like that against the control decks, so that you do have a big thing to go get. I'm actually not sure how prevalent control is going to be, and if the format's really aggressive, then I don't really want Empty the Pits in my deck.
Exactly.
But if it ends up being really slow and grindy, then 1 copy of Empty is probably very, very good.
Yeah, I think it might be like really strong against some of the mid-rangey decks too, because you have so much removal and they probably have so much removal that you're just going to sit there and like, I have 4 Bio Blights in my hand, they have 4, you're just kind of like looking at each other.
Yeah, I mean, but that's also an argument against...
not Bio Blight, probably, but...
Yeah, well, I was going to say, that's actually an argument against Empty the Pits, because you're putting all your stock in this 1 card that gets hit by Bio Blight, but I do get your point that, you know, if they don't have Bio Blight, it is one of the best finishers that you can possibly have.
And you can also sometimes empty and kill the guy they Bio Blight.
That's true.
And kill
I
them
do
as
like
well.
that. I didn't even think about that. So, all right, guys, well, that is Dark Rabble. Let's get to Brian's deck, and then we'll get to battle.